Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second day of our faculty development program on next generation electronics and communication systems. I'm powered by machine learning and artificial intelligence. So, today we have Dr. Amit from IIT Jodhpur with us for the third session. So, before we start, Dr. Amit, are you there? Yes, Dr. Amit is there. Welcome to our session. So before we start, let me give you a very brief intro about Dr. Amit Bhardwaj. So Dr. Amit Bhardwaj received his PhD degree from Department of Electrical Engineering from IIT Bombay in June 2016. From June 2016 to January 2017, he was a research associate at IIT Bombay. From February 2017 to December 2017, he was Alexander von Humboldt postdoctoral fellow at Chair of Media Technology, Technical University of Munich, Germany. After that, he joined Pohang University of Science and Technology, South Korea, as a postdoctoral researcher. Currently, he is working as an associate professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Jodhpur. He is a co-author of the book Kinesthetic Perception: A Machine Learning Approach, published by Springer. His research interests include haptic modeling and rendering, haptic perception, haptic data communication, signal processing, and applications of machine learning. So, with this brief intro, I welcome Dr. Amit. Now it's to you. Up to you. Please share your screen and we can start with this session. Dr. Amit, you are not audible actually. I'm not able to hear you. If Dr. Amit is audible to anyone else, if yes, please. Yes, there might be some problem at my end.
Am I audible now? Am I audible now, Pankaj?
Yes, Dr. Amit. Now it's fine. Good.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, then I hope it's faculty development program. It means most of the joining
Yeah,
participants are faculty somewhere. Okay.
yeah. Most of them are faculty and mostly assistant professors. Some are associate and some are professors as well, and some few are PhD scholars and PG scholars. So both mostly assistant professors.
And mostly they are in the I think from the departments of electronics, or electrical or computer science, right? Or
Right, and some are from civil as well. I don't know. Actually, they are interested. They told me that they have something to do with this course, so they are interested actually.
okay,
So
okay, okay. Then let me share my screen, and you just let me know which version is fine. I think PDF or doc or PPT format. Is my screen visible?
yes, this is fine. I think you can go ahead with this, but put it in full screen mode.
Is it fine now? Is it full screen?
Not yet.
Just a minute. Just a minute. I will do something else. Okay.
Slideshow and then full screen mode, then it will be fine.
Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes,
I will
it's
just.
visible.
I will just. Now is it full screen?
Yeah. It's now it's full screen. Good to
Okay.
go.
But the issue is that I can't see any one of you. I just see my screen.
Not an issue,
Okay.
but here it's fine. You can start.
It's fine.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening to everyone. As Dr. Pankaj has given my brief overview. I am faculty in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Jodhpur, and today we will be uh, discussing haptic perception. Okay, and as I I was informed that this faculty development program is on applications of machine learning somehow, and some AI and some stuff. Then I thought of bringing some machine learning approach that we use um, for the research of haptics. Okay, then in the starting I was inquiring about what is the background of the audience. The reason was that uh, I want to spend some time in make you understanding that what is haptics. Okay, then I think in next 25 to 30 minutes I will try to make you understand what is haptics, what are the domains. I'll just give a brief overview, and then in next 20 or 25 minutes so we will touch upon the applications of data driven approach in haptic perception, or I should say that are there any engineering applications uh, if we consider haptic perception. Okay, I hope my voice is quite audible, Pankaj. Then shall I go ahead?
Yes, it's fine, perfectly fine.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay. Now, we as human beings have five senses to interact with our surroundings, and we all know very well. Uh, it's quite clear from this image as well. But uh, for long time, uh, the touch has sense, the sense of touch has not been explored for much in the research domain. Now, for example, in the last 50 60 years we have been looking at the research from the point of view of vision and audio. Okay, that's why there is so much uh, good quality of displays and high SD TVs, all these things you are getting, and even the sound that we are getting a lot of good sound system as well, right? For example, we are focusing more and more on the two senses, and of course these two senses are are very much important for us, right? Now, now the in the research domain, that even in the area of augmented and virtual reality in the metaverse, now if you want to develop a realistic scene in AR or VR, you need all the senses, right? It means we are talking about a virtual scene, virtual environment. Then you talk about, okay, now in the virtual environment we also need other senses, just like your sense of smell, sense of touch, and sense of uh, and taste. Now here we will be talking only about sense of touch. Okay. Now, what is this? This haptics is the science uh, of to study the sense of touch, and it's an interdisciplinary academic field. Since it's an academic field, then the obvious question will be that what will you study? Okay, for example, this is some area. For example, someone tell, okay, this is the um, sound is auditory is the academic field. What will you study? What will you consider there? But in this academic field, our first task is to understand human touch sensory system. It means how do we perceive sense of touch? For example, if you perceive vibration, then it's a sense of touch. If you perceive temperature, it's a sense of touch. Whatever you perceive through your skin, that's sense of touch. Okay, that means how do you perceive sense of touch? Then the next question comes out. Okay, you have understood what's your haptic touch system in the human beings. What to do next? It's fine that you have understood. Now next part is that we want to use this knowledge to develop some system. As after all, we all are engineers. We need to develop some sub engineering systems, and to develop these systems, then maybe use this knowledge that we have gained uh, uh, after understanding this haptic perception or haptic human touch sensory system, then it means we want to develop a computer controlled system. And what will it do? That will allows us to physically interact with various environments through touch. Okay, then I have emphasized here on this word that various environments through touch. Okay, now it means I am covering two aspects here, that you want a system that will allow you, one of the possibility that I'm stressing upon, that one of the possibility that I want you to interact with a virtual object. Okay, it means if there is a virtual object and you want to touch upon, it means there is a table, you want to perceive it, you want to feel it, how hard this object is. There is a sofa in virtual environment, just like you do shopping in Amazon or Flipkart. There is a virtual thing, you want to perceive how hard it is, what is the texture of it. Okay, that's a virtual thing. Next thing is interacting with the real objects. For example, if you, by some means, you can control a robot by a distance. Okay, and there are solutions available nowadays. You can control that's called a tele-robotic applications. You can control a robot by a distance. Okay, now robot is doing the task what you are asking it to do. Okay, it means you are giving some instructions. Once it interacts with the environment, there will be some change in the environment, objects will be deformed. Okay, now the thing is that once the objects are getting deformed, you want to make it a interactive system, you want to make it more immersive system. The thing will be that you want a force feedback. It means the force, whatever robot performs some task on the object, that interaction force should be transmitted back to the user wherever it is performing the task. Okay, that's called the teleoperation. It means use of haptic, use of sense of touch, the teleoperation. Okay, now in this slide I have given you a hint that in this whole academic field we are talking about virtual environment as well as the real environment. Okay, and the sense of touch can be used to develop your more immersive VR platform or more immersive your robotic platforms, that so that when you interact with robots, and then you get a force feedback or interaction feedback of sense of touch. Okay, some more general details, that the sense of touch is quite you can classify in two parts. One is your tactile sensation, and tactile sensation means whatever you perceive. For example, in the figure you can see you are it means we are here trying to explore some grass on with the help of our hand on then whatever you perceive through your skin. Okay, that it comes under tactile, and these are mediated by receptors under the skin. Okay, now what kind of things you perceive through your direct skin? Temperature, pressure, vibration. Okay, and all these things you perceive, these are the things that come under tactile sensation. Even you perceive the shape of an object, curvature of an object through your skin. Okay, it means you just put your hand across the object, then you can get to know how hard it no, sorry, it's not hard, how soft the object is it. Okay, and what is the curvature of it, what is the shape of it. Another thing is the kinesthetic part. Okay, and that comes under that your muscles and joints. Okay, that primarily you perceive your velocity, position, orientation of the body using your kinesthetic sensation. And in total the haptic information is a combination of tactile plus kinesthetic information. Okay, I will just hold on this slide for some time, that you just think of one point, that can you imagine our life without sense of touch? Okay, we might have seen many uh, persons who might have lost their visual sense or auditory sense, But have anyone come across a person who has lost sense of touch? And if someone lose sense of touch, how hard it will be for that person? Okay, then uh, because I don't have much time, that's why I could have elaborated more, but I am just giving you a cue that there is a documentary on Ian Waterman on BBC. You can Google it and you check it out. There is a story about this person, Ian Waterman. He lost his sense of touch and how hard it was for him to live a normal life, right? The thing is that your kinesthetic sensation is so important. It's a combination of two things. Kinesthetic means it also consider proprioceptive feedback. If you close your eyes, if and someone asks you rotate your hand left side, move your hand upside, all these things you can easily do it, right? Why you can do it? You are able to do it only because you have your proprioceptive sensation. It means proprioceptive sensation tells you the relative position of your limbs with respect to each other. It means even you close your eyes, your body knows where is your hand, your body knows where is your leg. Okay, in case if someone lose this information, you are not able to walk. Okay, that's the importance of your sense of touch. We will not be able to do our daily activities without sense of touch. It's not only the temperature, vibration, pressure. Yes, of course it's part of sense of touch, but sense of touch is much more than that. Okay, I hope you are getting my point, that the the movement of our body organs with respect to it's because of our kinesthetic sensation. Okay, what is the main another difference that let me tell you. I think I will just spend 1 minute here. uh, we have two types of skin on our body. One is hairless skin and another hairy skin. Okay, and each skin has different sensation. If you talk about the sense of touch, I think because of time constraints, I will be just giving you reference with respect to glabrous skin. That is most prominent because we mostly do our activities through hands, and hand is our glabrous skin, that hairless skin. Okay, now with respect to other senses like visual and auditory, and even you can talk about smell and taste. Why sense of touch is more complex than other senses? Okay, may I ask this question? And let me if you want, anyone want to give answer, I can okay, anyone wants to give answer why sense of touch is more complex than other senses? uh, um, Pankaj, can they respond or they can write? What is the modality?
Yes, they can respond as well as they can write.
Oh, people can write. I think it's better to write. um, I think I can give you 1 minute's time. Anyone has idea? There is no response. Okay, let me proceed. Okay, Nitya has called more area. I think somewhere it's closer. Closer means okay, let me respond this way. Because each our senses, either it's visual, auditory, smell, and taste. It means God has given us a specific organ to sense it. You have eyes, ear, tongue, and nose, right? But for the skin, your whole body is sensory mechanism, right? It means your if you want to study your human skin with respect to sense of touch, your sensation of your skin at hand is quite different from your leg and throughout your body. It's a different sensation. If you want to develop a haptic system for your hand, that will not work for your leg. Okay, it means our whole body is a sensory mechanism, unlike your other sensory organs. Okay, now because the whole skin is a sensory part, that's why the receptors in the skins are distributed across the body, and now these receptors play important role that how we perceive the sense of touch. Now what happens, I think it's just little bit biological side. I will just spend 1 minute here, and I will just skip this slide very quickly. That what happens, it means when you try to touch any object, what happens that for example, if you are trying to interact with your this finger, then the mechanoreceptors present in the skin get the signal through neurons, and these are received at the spinal cord, which consists of some 31 segments, and transfer this information through two major pathways: medial lemniscal pathway and spinothalamic tract. Then the signal is received at somatosensory cortex. Okay, then our brain area has dedicated space for each sensory organ. For visual, there is a visual cortex, there is auditory cortex. That's why for sense of touch you have somatosensory cortex area in your brain. Now it's an interesting figure. In this figure, the researchers have mapped. When there is an area in your brain that is dedicated for the sense of touch, and even if you further classify which organ has more area dedicated in the brain, okay, more is the area, more is the sensitivity. That's called homunculus map. Okay, now you see that some part of your body has higher area dedicated to it. That means they are more sensitive to sense of touch. You can see your lips, they are more sensitive. You can see your hand, it's more sensitive. The area which is less sensitive has been given less space. Fine, your leg is more sensitive, this part. I think that tells you that the biological side of the sense of touch. That's why I mentioned at the starting that one of the purpose of understanding haptics, that how do we perceive sense of touch. Okay, that means understanding our somatosensory cortex and how do we perceive. Now next part, if you want to do the research in the area of haptics, okay, there are primarily three domains. One is human haptics, another is machine haptics, and the other part is computer haptics. Okay, and that's why in the field of haptics, people from across the domains, either in robotics, mechanical, even psychology, neurophysiology, biological people, computer scientists, electrical engineers, mechanical, they all work in different domains, and ultimately they are working in the domain of haptics. Okay, in the domain of human haptics, you try to understand the human perception. In machine haptics, we develop the haptic devices. In computer haptics, we develop algorithms to perceive the force. I think I will spend more time individually on that. Okay, for example, in computer haptics, it's a process of computing force. Okay, then I think I will explain it with the help of an example. Okay, now if I want to, let me say, I think I hope okay, I am visible to all, right?
Yes, you are visible.
Okay, I didn't get. Please stop keeping. What is the comment I didn't get?
Actually, he's saying ki please stop saying good evening. Actually, the participants are saying good evening in the chat box. So in this, some of the
Okay.
important messages can be missed. So
I
that's why
thought
he's advising please don't say good evening and all again and again.
okay, I thought it's for me to stop.
No, no, no,
I
no,
will be
no, no,
happy
no,
to.
no, no. That's fine. You can please go
Okay,
ahead.
okay,
Everything
fine.
is going fine.
Okay, let me give you an example here. I think it will be better to give you an example. I have uh, this my car key. Okay, you can see my car key. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I am holding it. Fine. Once I hold it, then there is an interaction with this object. Once there is an interaction, then a force is computed. Fine. Who computes the force? Or brain computes the force. And brain, when once the brain computes the force, what I do? I do my cognition action depending on it. Okay, whether I need to put it back and I want to do some action. Fine. This is the same on the same philosophy. Just mimic it. Fine. You mimic it in the sense of a virtual object. Now there is a virtual object, just like you can see in the figure. There is a computer here, and you want to interact with the virtual object in the computer. Fine. Now just like imagine, just like I uh, uh, had this key in my hand. What do you need? You need a mechanism just like your hand, which can interact with the object in the computer. It's a virtual object. Fine. It means you need some haptic device, okay, that can interact or that can have a collision with the virtual object. Okay, that's where the term called haptic device come into the picture. Fine. I will just explain what is haptic device. Fine. Once there is a haptic device that can interact with, that can reach up to the virtual object, then there will be a collision. Just like my head collided with the key, then there is a collision. Then that collision is detected. Once there is a collision, what happens? Your brain computes the force, how much force needs to be applied. Okay, then this part you have to mimic that part. It means now in the virtual world there is no brain involved here. Okay, it is you are mimicking the thing what we do in the normal life. Then this process of computing the force between the object and the haptic device, that process is called haptic rendering. Fine. That's why I have just explained you that a process to compute interaction force between haptic interface inside the virtual environment or virtual objects, that is called haptic rendering. And that's a flow of haptic rendering that I already mentioned. That's a interaction tool. That's like interaction tool means haptic device tool. There will be collision, then will be response force will be computed, and then this force feedback will be given to the device that user is holding. Okay, and that whole process needs to be updated. If it's not updated frequently, then you will not get the realistic force feedback. If you are just saying that I interacted and then I will get the force feedback after 5 minutes, then nobody will use the device. That update rate should be quite good. And I think I think that's why I mentioned here that to have realistic haptic rendering or realistic haptic perception in the virtual environment, the update rate, the rate at which the force is computed, should be at higher rate. For the rigid surface, the update rate should be more than 1 kilohertz, and for textured surfaces, this update rate should be in the range of 5 to 10 kilohertz. Okay, then you may ask how to compute this interaction force. There are some standard approaches in the literature that you can use. Parametric approach, physics based approach. For example, if you just want to render rigid body, you just use the spring model. And if you want to render some viscoelastic deformable object, there are some standard models available in the literature. Use Maxwell model, Kelvin model, all these models, and you define the relationship between it means ultimately you define constitutive equations between input and output, and that equation will be used to compute the interaction force. Since this FDP lecture is on machine learning and data driven approach, that's why I deliberately put this slide into the my presentation. That yes, of course there are some approaches that use parametric based approach, but in the recent past, in the last 10-15 years, people have started using machine learning techniques to develop haptic rendering algorithms. And the process is very simple here, that you have real objects, you collect lot of data with the help of force stroke sensor and haptic device, and use these data to train a non-parametric input-output mapping function, and this mapping function is used for haptic rendering. Okay, what is machine haptics? As I mentioned, that to mimic your your human hand, you need a haptic device, right? And that's the purpose. That's why in the machine haptics, the whole task is to develop these machines, that actuators, sensors, and haptic devices. There are many types of haptic interfaces. As I mentioned, there are two types of haptic feedback. One is your force feedback or kinesthetic feedback. Another is your tactile. Based on your application, that whether you want force feedback device or tactile interface, just like vibration or temperature kind of interface you require, the haptic interface will change. And of course, it will also depend on what is the degree of freedom, whether it's a 2 degree of freedom haptic device, 3 degree of freedom haptic device, or does it provide torque also. That will also tell you another type of classification of haptic devices. These are some of the examples of haptic device. Some examples of some of you might have seen somewhere in research labs, that Phantom 1.5, Phantom Omni. We have few of them in our research lab at IIT Jodhpur. Okay, what is I have covered this machine haptics, computer haptics. Now what's next? This human haptics. In human haptics, we try to understand haptic perception or human perception of sense of touch. Okay, then there are two domains here. One is your psychophysical domain, another is neurophysiology. Psychophysical domain means we consider our perception as a black box. We give input and we get output. Okay, and then we try to find a relationship between input and output. What I mean to say, that in psychophysics, we try, for example, if I give you a force of 2 Newton or 3 Newton, how much this 2 Newton is your physical magnitude, okay, or stimulus intensity. How much you perceive, that's a output. That's called a perceived stimulus magnitude. Now the relation, to find a relationship between perceived magnitude and physical magnitude. Okay, that's one of the domain in psychophysics, right? For example, if I keep on increasing my force from 0 to 2 Newton, does it imply that you perceive your magnitude in the same fashion of increasing order? There might be a different relationship. That relationship might follow logarithmic relation or power law. Fine. It means finding that relationship is also part of psychophysics. And on top of that, what is the smallest amount of force that you can perceive? Okay, and if you have, of course, if for example a force of 2 Newton has been given to you, what is the smallest amount of force change that I should give it to 2 Newton so that you perceive a different force? That come under psychophysics. In neurophysiology, we perceive lot of things through our sense of touch. Okay, now what organs the skin sense haptic stimuli? Okay, and what part of the brain process that information? It means that the biological part related to sense of touch comes under neurophysiology. Now, if you consider physiological basis of haptic perception, I'm just talking about glabrous skin. There are so many, as I mentioned, human skin is very complex. Okay, then your whole body is a sensory mechanism. Okay, and there are so many receptors. Each joint has mechanoreceptor. Fine, and you have two types of skin: glabrous skin and non-glabrous skin. I am talking about glabrous skin. That's only the tactile part. In our glabrous skin, there are 4 mainly receptors: Merkel receptors, which is close to the surface of the skin; Meissner corpuscle, Ruffini cylinder, and Pacinium. These are the 4 mechanoreceptors in our glabrous skin. based on the stimuli. Based on the stimuli, or based on the stimuli means based on the object you interact with them, these receptors are getting activated. Okay, and now it depends which mechanoreceptor has been activated, and then it will provide you the corresponding sense of perception. Fine. Now, for example, in these there is a summary of these mechanoreceptors. That, for example, this Merkel receptor has a frequency range, because these act like a filters or frequency. They have their own frequency bands. If a stimuli has a frequency range in the range of 0.3 to 3 hertz, your Merkel receptor will get activated. There are Misner corpuscle has a different frequency range. Ruffini Pacinian has larger frequency range, and each mechanoreceptor is its own characteristic. Now, Merkel receptor is used to perceive pressure, fine details of the surface. When you want to have some control your hand grip, then Misner receptor is used. If you stretch your skin, then the Ruffini cylinder is used. And to perceive vibration or texture, if you move your fingers on a texture, then Pacinian is used. And now you can imagine that most of the times you will be using your Pacinian corpuscle or Pacinian mechanoreceptor, because when you perceive your vibration, when your phone rings, then your Pacinian mechanoreceptors are used to perceive the sense of touch. Okay, as I have already pointed out, that what is the psychophysics, that you have given a stimulus, the 2 Newton I was talking about, and response means what is the magnitude of it. Okay, then this finding the relationship between stimulus and response, that's the part of the psychophysics, and we develop algorithms here to investigate the mechanism, that we investigate the relationship between stimuli in physical domain and senses in the psychological domain. Okay, then there are two terms we frequently use in the domain of haptics. One is absolute threshold, that what is the smallest amount of stimulus energy to produce a sensation that can be reliably detected. It means what is the smallest amount of stimulus that you can perceive it. Another thing is the smallest amount of stimulus energy difference to produce a sensation that can be reliably discriminated. That's called discrimination threshold. Right? There are two things. It means there are two things, means absolute threshold and discrimination threshold or difference threshold. Then in the literature, there are standard techniques available which computes these absolute threshold and difference threshold. One of the prominent method is called psychometric function, and that's part of one of the classical psychophysical method in the literature. And here you have this, you plot the psychometric function. I'm not going to the details. You plot this S-shaped ogive curve. You get this psychometric function, and on this psychometric function is a graph between probability of perceiving and versus stimulus intensity, and the point of 50% detection is called your absolute threshold. Fine. And point of 84% of detection is called difference threshold. And now in case of difference threshold, that experiment is done with respect to a reference stimulus intensity. For example, I was talking about that you have been given a reference for 2 Newton. Now with respect to 2 Newton, how much amount of delta force I should add it so that you perceive a different force. That's the reference. Now this 50% point will give you the reference, and after that how much I should increase it so that you perceive different. This is called DL, the discrimination threshold. Okay, then this difference threshold and absolute thresholds are computed using your classical psychophysical methods. Okay, now the next part, that's the part of your finding the relationship, finding the absolute and difference threshold. As I mentioned, that psychophysics is also part of finding the relationship between perceived magnitude and stimulus intensity, and finding the relationship of J and D. I think one more thing, this difference threshold is also called just noticeable difference. Okay, the J and D is also called a difference threshold. Then the relationship between J and D and stimulus magnitude is also important. Then there are two important psychophysical laws in the literature. One is Weber's law, another is Stevens' power law. Okay, Then one talks about the relationship between JND and stimulus magnitude. Another talk about perceived magnitude and stimulus intensity. Okay, that's the Weber's law. I think it just tell you that just noticeable difference equal to is directly proportional to reference stimulus magnitude. Okay, it means the difference threshold will increase as the reference magnitude increases, right? And this W is the Weber fraction. Okay, and this Weber fraction is constant over a certain range. Okay, now I think I have stressed little bit on the basic side. I will just take 10-15 minutes more and then we will wrap up. Now then someone will ask that you have stressed upon so much emphasis on just noticeable difference, Weber fraction, difference threshold, absolute threshold, Weber's law, and so and so. Then what is the application of this haptic perception in engineering? Let's talk about. I was talking about this teleoperation in the starting, that you are using haptic device. There is a robot. You want to control the robot by a distance, and it's a complex process. Okay, there are so many things involved here. There's a control loop, communication part, and there are so many things. I'm interested in the transmission part. That means you are required to transmit, because it's a, you see in the figure, multiple modalities are getting transmitted from one side to another side. It means the visual environment will be transmitted back to the operator side. Operator will transmit its position velocity to the robot side, and whenever there is a interaction, then the force will be transmitted back to the operator side. Okay, then here I am interested in the communication side. Then it means when you are transmitting the haptic information, there are some issues that it's unlike your audio and video, there is a bidirectional transmission. It means bidirectional means until or unless you don't perform any task, there is no force. But once there is an interaction, corresponding to there is an action, then the force has to be computed. It means now there is a loop. You perform some task, that force will be computed, and it has to be transmitted back to the operator in a specified time. If you delay it, if there is a delay, then the whole control loop will get unstabilized. Okay, and then there will be problem. That's why in the delay will cause instability, and even there is a congestion that will also further destabilize the system. And as I mentioned, that to perceive there is a requirement from haptic device end to perceive realistic force feedback. The update rate, the rate at which the force needs to update, it should be more than 1000 hertz. Then it means that there is a requirement to compress haptic data. The conventional approaches can't be used just like we use in audio video, because there is all these approaches used block based approaches, and whenever you use block, they will further delay the process. Now I'm talking about the solution, and there is solution already available in the literature. But then I will talk about when this solution was available, then how we can use this our data driven approach to find to find an optimized solution. Now in 2008, Hinterseer at Technical University of Munich proposed a mechanism to reduce the haptic transmission. He considered Weber's law of perception that I was talking about. That's why I was mentioning you that what is the application of haptic perception in engineering. He employed the Weber's law of perception in developing adaptive sampling mechanism for haptic transmission. It is a non-uniform sampling. What it considers, you don't transmit those samples which are not perceived. How will you get to know that which samples are perceived, which are not perceived? That are perceived with respect to, and that comes under the domain of absolute threshold and difference threshold. Difference threshold means just noticeable difference. It means you transmit only those samples which are perceived different from the reference force. It means you apply your Weber's law whenever this ratio That's the Weber's law. Whenever this ratio exceeds this Weber fraction delta, you transmit the next force. That's why here you can see only the red points are transmitted, rest of the points are not transmitted. It means here, as per the Weber's law of perception, you are trying to find perceptually significant samples. Okay, perceptually insignificant samples are not transmitted. Okay, and you blue region you can find out, this is called Weber perceptual dead zone. That means whenever the next sample falls under this blue region, you will not transmit the sample. Okay, that's a very simple philosophy. Now, where we have used the data driven approach, that now this Weber fraction and just noticeable difference, this delta, these are earlier these were computed with the help of classical psychophysical methods. That what we used in our research, that may we identify more structures of this perceptual adaptive sampling mechanism using some data driven approach, or there are any issues related to adaptive sampling mechanism. Okay, it means the delta is the main factor. Okay, and this delta is corresponds to Weber's law. Okay, then we thought, let's don't use any hypothesis or bias, that we will only use Weber's law perception. We will collect data, whatever data tells you, whether it's Weber's law or any other law, we'll go by that. But of course we'll use that principle that we should transmit only which are perceived different from the reference one. Then what we did, we designed experiments, recorded haptic responses, and then our hypothesis was that we would, based on these recorded responses, we develop some classifiers, and whichever classifier performs better, that will give you the structure of adaptive sampling. Then here, just like this, we perform some experiments. User is holding the haptic device, and a certain amount of force is given, and user is asked that you perceive the force, you respond whenever you change a different force. If you don't perceive a different force, that is labeled as -1, and if a force is perceived different, then it's labeled as +1. Fine. Then you can see that in the figure you can see there are so many perceived, and blue points are perceived ones and red points are non-perceived ones. Okay, and ultimately you have to find a boundary between these perceived non-perceived points. Okay, and then we fit a Weber's law. Weber's law has a structure, fine, and with the whatever Weber's law has provided a structure, that will define Weber classifier. We consider another structure, that level crossing structure. It means instead of having a relative difference, just have absolute difference, and we developed this level crossing classifier. Okay, and then we compared the accuracy of level crossing and Weber classifier, and we found out that in some cases level crossing performs better than the Weber classifier. Okay, it means what we did in this research, that both Weber and level crossings are good candidates for adaptive sampling. We didn't say that Weber is not a good choice, but we mentioned that yes, we should transmit only perceptually significant samples, but Weber is not the only choice to consider for finding perceptually significant samples. Okay, now I was mentioning that we should consider that it means this whole philosophy of transmitting perceptually significant sample depend on the perceptual dead zone. Okay, perceptual dead zone, if some sample, next sample lies in the dead zone region, you will not transmit. Now thing is that what is the effect of direction? Direction means your force can be 1D or 2D or 3D. When you go into the higher dimension, then direction will also play the role. The force is, if you are in the 2D region, whether the dead zone will be circular or elliptical. Fine, that was the main criteria. Then what we again considered different classifiers, that Weber, level crossing, elliptical, and oriented ellipse. These are different structures of these classifiers, and we collected lot of data in 2D space. And here you can consider that blue points are perceived and red points are non-perceived. And at that time, when we did this study 10 years ago, we couldn't find any difference between circular and elliptical dead zones, and we found out there is no directional preference. But now I think we are reopening this research, and we have found some some effect of direction, but this research has to be it's under review, and once it's finalized, I think we'll update you more. The next issue is about that since the whole factor in data transmission is Weber fraction. Okay, now Weber fraction decides your perceptual dead zone. Now what happens? It means when you have continuous haptic force stimuli, now the rate of change, how does the force change? The force may change slowly, force may change at rapid rate. Does it mean that your Weber fraction will remain constant? As of now, it has been mentioned that Weber fraction remains constant. Okay, but we questioned this hypothesis, and we considered that this Weber fraction should be a function of rate of change of stimuli. And then, considering this hypothesis, we design an experimental setup. Just like this user is holding the haptic device. Now this is a higher end haptic device available in the lab. We gave a force in the z direction to the user. We give this kind of haptic stimuli. You can see that for initial 2-second force is constant, then force increases at a rate of r time per r Newton per second. Then after that the force is constant, and again for 2 seconds, then it becomes 0. Then we ask the user, did you perceive a change in the force? Okay, and then we plotted this scatter plot that with respect to difference, that change in the force stimuli and the force rate. And you can see the red points again are perceived ones, no, non-perceived ones, and blue points are perceived ones. And then our whole idea is to find a found a then the
नाही 150 कार्ड हा 150चं कार्ड म्हटलं मी रिचार्ज करायचं.
I think please someone mute. Yeah.
Done. Please go ahead.
Okay, then our task is to find a boundary between these perceived and non-perceived point. Then we applied two types of classifiers here. One is a linear function based boundary and power function based boundary. You can see that one is the linear, that d equal to mr plus c. Another is a power based relation with d equal to beta r power alpha, and we found these coefficients. And you can see that these are the two types of boundary we find out, that force rate versus, now you have a relationship between Weber fraction versus force rate, and both these classifiers tells you that as the force rate increases, your Weber fraction decreases. Means we declined that hypothesis, that assumption that Weber fraction should remain constant. We can mention that Weber fraction is a function of rate of change of stimuli, and our results tell that there is no significant difference between both the classes. Both are giving the similar kind of results. Okay, these are the outcomes that I have already mentioned, that Weber fraction decreases with the positive rate of change, and these considerations may be considered in developing data transmission algorithm for haptics for teleoperation. Now I will just take 2 or 3 minutes more. Now whatever I have explained, that was with respect to haptics for teleoperation. In my lab, I do multiple types of research in the domain of haptics. This is one of the domain that I stressed upon in this lecture, that haptics for teleoperation. And we are doing this, we do this kind of setup in our lab. This is experimental test bed we have at IIT Jodhpur. We have robot here. You can see there is a haptic device, and we control this haptic device, this robot with the help of haptic device. And once there is an interaction with the environment, a force feedback is received at the haptic end. I think you can see that some of the videos you can see our students are doing here. In one of the right side video, you can see that the task is being done by distance, I think up to 500 meters. That in the video, a video is also being transmitted. User is trying to rotate it, control the motion of the robot. In another video, you can see both the robot and haptic device are in different labs. We are trying to push the robot, and once there is a interaction, the user feels the haptic force. Okay, I think one more closer look you can have. Yeah, it means you can see that we are able to even confine the movement of the robot in a smaller space. You can control, you can move it in any way, but uh, uh, controlling the robot in a very confined space is another challenge that we have done in the lab. Okay, there are many challenges in this domain. Design of good manipulators, delay compensating controllers, and to find relationship between different sensing modalities. And that's all from my side. I think I am done in 1 hour. If there are any questions, I will be happy to take. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, from the audience, if you have any questions, you are free to discuss or you can interact. So no questions from anyone? Yes, Dr. Amit, we have one question from Mr. Paveen Kumar. Kindly share the PPTs of today's sessions along with recording link.
That's
Okay,
for
that's
you.
for me. Okay, actually,
Okay, I think yeah, please
okay,
go
no
ahead.
questions from your side. For you, then I think thank you, Dr. Amit, so much for your valuable time. So thank you so much.
Okay, fine, thank you. Yeah, bye
Please
bye
do share your
everyone. Yeah,
please do share your PPTs.
I will see it. I will see. No issue.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank
Okay,
you, thank you.
bye. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Okay, participants for video link. Actually, I have mailed the presenters yesterday. Presenter, if I'll get the confirmation, actually because this is from ISRO, one of the presentations. So I have asked them if they can give me the permission to upload it on YouTube. If I'll be given the permission, I'll upload it and share the link with you. So I need some official permission. So, okay, so this presentation is done within an hour. So we can have a break of half an hour. We'll start at 7:30 again.